All right, so we will go ahead and get started, and we are flying a little blind up here, everyone, so committee members just know that there is no queue for now, so just kind of raise your hand, I'll jot your name down, and we will call on you accordingly, but everything's going to be hand vote, everything's going to be done without, our systems up here. So keep that in mind. With that, we're going to go for our introductions to the left. If there's any public comment, we'll go to that. Then we'll go through the agenda, and then we're going to get started. Go ahead.
Good morning, y'all. Bill Delaney, Mayor's Office.
Brandon Russell, Council Research.
Mary Stefopoulos, Office of General Counsel.
Philip Peterson, Council Auditor's Office.
Good morning and happy Pride. Jimmy Peluso, District 7.
Good morning, Ken Amara, City Council, District 1.
Good morning, Chris Miller, At-Large Group 5, City Council.
Joe Carlucci, District 5.
Ron Salem, Group 2 At-Large.
Good morning, Michael Boylan, District 6.
Randy White, District 12, just visiting.
Hey, good morning. Rory Diamond, District 13, also just visiting from the beaches.
There you go. Okay, I was like, man, you're missing your tagline over there. All right, so we'll go ahead to public comment, and then we'll go through the agenda to get everyone situated with what we're going to be going through today. So first up, we have Trey Mills. Questions only. Are you here for a specific bill? Is there a Trey Mills? Oh, okay. There's no mic. Turn that mic on for me. There you go.
Dylan Reingold with the Office of General Counsel. Mr. Trey Mills is with me on 2025-320. This is the Brownfield Site Rehabilitation Agreement.
Okay,
amendment.
320. Okay, cool. So everyone just know that there is someone here for the Brownfield site, Mr. Mills, so hang around with us. And then next we will go to Mr. John Nooney. Your mic's off.
Whole legislation. Oop. Wasn't even on recording. Wow. Okay, tough crowd this morning. All right, number 5, 2025-0285. Vote no. 8, 2025-0317. Send to Waterways. Number 9, send to Waterways. Okay, 26 seconds. God, 2025-0330. 450 grand to the EPV. Vote no. 2025-0379, FEMA stuff, not in Waterways. 2025-0326. Where's Kara Tucker on this one? Okay, 7 seconds. As far as the minutes, I wasn't recognized with my bill numbers.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Mr. Nooney. And our research department is working on that, and we will let you know. And just because I didn't gavel in officially, we're going to go ahead and gavel in and officially do this Monday, June 2nd. This is the Neighborhoods Community Service Public Health and Safety Committee meeting coming to order. So with that, we're going to go through the agenda, and we have no other public comment cards. So item number 1, 2024-966 is deferred. Item number 2, 2025-138 is up for action, and we have Councilmember Diamond here to help walk us through that. Item number 3, Bill 189 is deferred. Item number 4, 276 is amend and move. Item number 5, 285 is deferred. Item number 6, 291 is deferred. Item number 7, 304 is amend and move. Number 8, up for action. 9, up for action. 10, up for action. 11, action. 12, amend and move. Councilmember Johnson, does anyone know if he's going to be joining us? He is? Okay. He says he's going to be here? Okay, cool. We'll push that towards the back if we need to. I know he's got another one towards the back. So item number 13, 2025, up for action. 14, action item. 15 is amend and move. 16, 2025, 331. is up for action, 2/3 vote required. 17, up for action. 18 is the other bill for Councilmember Johnson. That is an amend and move. 19, Councilmember Johnson bill again. That's a straight action item. 20 is deferred. 21 is up for action, and that is a 2/3 vote as well. It's just not marked on the agenda, so if you guys want to notate that, you can. All right, the rest is second reading, and then we also have one emergency item in the back on page 18, item number 40, 2025-395. Move the emergency and amend and move. And that is it. Any questions or any changes? Seeing none. All right, so with that, we will go ahead and start. What? Oh, yeah, go ahead, Ms.
If I could, item number 40, it's marked to take up the amendment first and then the emergency. It should be swapped. So you'll want to take up the emergency and move that first on item number 40, 2025-395, and then take up the amendment.
All right, we will certainly do that. And I have an amendment I'm going to be offering on that as well, so we can kind of, I guess, roll those other amendments together. All right, cool. So with that, item number 1, 2024-966 is deferred. Item number 2, 2025-138. All right, we have a motion and a second on the bill. First, Councilmember Diamond, if you want to go ahead and lay the groundwork for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the courtesy of the floor. I'll be super brief. This bill has been around for a long time, so people should have been able to read it, ask their questions of OGC and anybody else to understand what's in it. Purpose of the bill essentially is to get a report from the mayor's office as to how much money and in what way are we spending on illegal aliens in Jacksonville, and 2, to get status of our federal grants that are related to the same types of things. To get a rundown on the city's employment practices when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion, and the last one is the one that probably got the most notice of folks, which is essentially stop spending Jacksonville taxpayer funds on people who are not in Jacksonville legally. So that's the purpose of the bill. I understand Councilman O'Mara's got an amendment. I've read it. I'm not going to get in the back and forth on the amendment today. If there's stuff I want to do on the amendment, I'll do that at Finance and Rules tomorrow. But
okay.
I'm available here. And Miss Mary helped write the bill, so she knows as much about it as I do. Thank you.
All right, understood. So again, guys, we don't have a queue up here, so I'm just going to kind of, I guess we'll kind of circle it to the left. Councilmember Peluso, then we'll go to Councilmember Amaro. I think you have an amendment to offer, and then we'll go into discussion on the amendment.
Thank you, Chair. Oftentimes I thank someone for writing a bill, and I say, oh, thank you for bringing this bill to our attention. I will not say that today. This is cruel. This is sick. This is unnecessary for city government, and I'm very disappointed that we even have to be debating this. I'm sorry that it's taken this long that we are. I understand there's an amendment, but I'm going to vote everything down. This bill should not exist. It should be withdrawn. It adds additional burdens on city functions and our staff. It adds additional burdens on families that are trying to make sure they're getting services, and it puts people... We're literally targeting human beings in our city. And we could talk about the merits of national immigration policy, but at the end of the day, it feels like we're falling into a place that our country pulled itself out of during McCarthyism and in some of our darkest years up until the civil rights movement of the 1960s. We should stop doing these odd pandering bills. I'm voting everything down, voting the amendment down, voting this bill down. It should be withdrawn, and I'm going to move to do that probably after this process. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else on the bill? Nope. All right. Councilmember Morrow, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got an amendment, friendly amendment I'd like to offer to this legislation. Tremendous respect for my colleague, Mr. Diamond, and where his heart is. But from the very beginning, I believe this bill to be an indictment of a problem that does not exist. It does not exist. It's hyperbole. and as the folks on the street would say, it is ratchet in nature. But to make it more palatable, I offer this friendly amendment to the language that will accomplish some of what the intent is and mitigate some of what I think deemed to be injurious action that this legislation will cause. If the objective is to get a report, you can get a report. If the objective is to get status, you can get that. So I don't know even why it's necessary, but nevertheless, I offer the Amaro amendment. Can I get a second on it or something?
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the Amaro amendment. So we're going to open it up for discussion on this and hopefully a little bit of a further detailed explanation on what exactly changes. Obviously, we have it here. This is the first time I'm seeing it. So is there any initial discussion? I'll go around the queue again. Yes? Yeah. Councilmember Plusso, is that a yes? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Chair. No, I'll be brief on this one. I mean, while I fully respect and appreciate the fact that you're trying to polish a turd, you're trying to help out an awful bill. None of this is necessary. None of this should be in the function of our city government, and it's really distracting to the business of the city. I'm going to vote it down. I'm going to vote the bill down. I'm going to ask for a withdrawal. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else on the Amaro amendment? Yeah, let's go ahead and get a further explanation if there's no other auditors or Ms. Stefopoulos.
Through the chair to the committee, I'll do my best. I was not involved in the
Who authored this?
It was authored by Mr. Reingold in coordination, I believe, with the administration as a friendly amendment for Mr. Amaro to offer.
Do you mind if I have him explain it then?
Absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Reingold.
Can I clarify a point?
Yeah, sure. Just
through the chair to Ms. Stefopoulos.
Good job.
You said the administration and Mr. Reingold put together this amendment.
Through the chair to Councilmember Salem. So my understanding is Mr. Amaro has indicated this is a friendly amendment that he is offering, and I believe that his office, in coordination with the administration, Ms. Norris is here to speak to it, and Mr. Reingold, who authored the amendment, were all collaborated on this item.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Ms. Norris, are you going to do the honors of explaining the amendment?
Yes, Brittany Norris for the administration. So the Amaro amendment takes several steps. One, it sort of mitigates some of the bureaucracy created by this bill. We confirmed with our city departments that the reports and the confirmations requested really aren't necessary because those things don't exist. It also updates, defines, or builds in an exception for medical care and social services in the limitation of city funds with nonprofits and their programs. And it also creates a more defined scope, not just all unauthorized immigrants, but rather specifically, again, the exception for medical care and social services, not limited to welfare activities, victim service providers such as labor and sex trafficking, which is a real concern in Jacksonville, and then programs for substance abuse and mental illness. And then also it limits it to programs that serve or target individuals 18 years of age or older known to be unauthorized aliens. So we sort of narrow the scope of what falls into this reporting.
All right, Councilmember Salem, you still have the floor if you'd like to ask any follow-up questions on that. Your pause? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Clark. Oh, and welcome, Ms. Clark-Murray. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I realize that the system's down, so
yes, ma'am.
I guess we'll just need to get your attention. Good morning, Ms. Norris.
Good morning.
So, Florida statute, how it defines an authorized alien. I want to hone in on what you just said in regards to that. So, the city is changing. In this amendment, the city has changed the definition of authorized alien. Just tell me what that is again.
So, no, we have not changed the definition of unauthorized alien. Okay. The initial bill just says all unauthorized aliens. We have narrowed the scope with this amendment to focus on unauthorized aliens 18 years or older.
Okay. All right. Now I understand. All right. Thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
All right. Any other questions on the Amaro amendment? Nope. Excuse me. Okay. I'll just make a quick comment. I'll support the amendment just by the nature of, my colleague's done a lot of work on this, but I would just say the explanation needs a firm tune-up for the rest of these committees because I didn't understand anything that was just said. So, no, it's fine. I mean, there needs to be a very clear, this is what the bill says, this is what the amendment does, this is the overlap, this is what's taken out, this is what's not taken out. That wasn't provided, but I'm not going to go into it any further. I'm going to support the amendment because I know Councilman Romero has obviously done that on the back end. So with that, we're going to take a hand vote on the amendment. So all in favor of the Amaro amendment signify by raising your hand. All right, 2, 3, or 3, 4, and then 4 against. Okay, high hand raise. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have it's a 4-4. So it fails. All right, and let's do all opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So the amendment fails, correct? All right. So now the amendment has failed. We're going to go back to the bill, and we'll start on the left, and we'll keep going around. All right, we got a full queue, kind of. All right, Councilmember Peluso, go ahead. And if you're going to, let's go through the bill, if you don't mind, before you offer your withdrawal.
Do you have a motion? Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so on the bill, anything on the bill over here? Councilmember Miller, do you have anything on the bill? Oh, Councilmember Amaro, did you want to go? All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I rise to say that this bill does not really accomplish anything. It's addressing a problem that does not exist. It's in plain English. It's hyperbole. It is ratchet. And the reality is that this body can get a report on anything that it requires without having to codify a law to say I need a report on something. And so my amendment was to move the bill forward and ease what the language said. But since the amendment failed, I'm going to vote against the bill. And I like Councilman Diamond. He's a great guy, but I can't support this. Thank you.
Councilmember Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the chair, I guess I look at this a little bit differently, putting it in the bigger context. Maybe the wording, if I were authoring this and introducing it, maybe I'd have changed some of the wording, but that's a preference. I don't see this as cruel, sick, or unnecessary. The way I look at this is we are responsible for the purse strings for the city. And having a regular report of how we're spending taxpayer dollars, regardless of how that is, I think that's an acceptable thing to ask for. However we're spending our money. And you could say that we could get any information, and I agree with Councilman Amaro, we can, but should we have to ask for it? And in this case, I have to say in the bigger picture, I saw plane load after plane load during the last administration of people shipped in from all over the place into our airport. And then once that was determined, they understood, people knew they were being shipped in, they went to other airports. Estimates range anywhere from 15 to 20 million people during the last administration came into our country illegally. I do not see something that is introduced asking for information on how we're spending our money on, and on whom. I don't see that as a problem. So I look at this more from a financial stewardship perspective, maybe not from the emotional perspective that I've heard, and maybe that's just a different way of looking at this. But again, I don't have a problem with the overall concept of this bill. But like I said, maybe I would have, if I were doing this, would have changed some of the wording and maybe made adjustments. I voted no on Councilman Amaro's amendment only because I haven't had time to really digest it. And so hopefully by rules time, I will have done so. but I voted no because I haven't had time to review those things. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, we'll continue to go down the dais here. Councilmember Salem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I share some of the my colleagues' frustration with the amendment. No reflection on Councilmember Romero, but the explanation was just very insufficient to me, and I think poorly written. Obviously, he didn't write it, but poorly written. But beyond that, this bill requires some reports, but it also prohibits funding to go to certain organizations, KHA, et cetera. Do we have any idea today, can anyone tell me the number of illegal aliens that are being serviced by any of these organizations? Does anyone keep track of that? Is that checked when recipients are receiving funding? Can the administration answer that? I know there's some providers here as well.
Generally, what we found when it comes, so it depends who you talk to. If it's UF Health, no, they just provide care. They're not checking status, right? If it's a soup kitchen, they're providing food. They're not checking status. The majority of these programs by nonprofits locally do not have the mechanism or the process in place to check and confirm someone's citizenship.
I think, have you talked to UF Health?
Yeah.
I understand someone shows up in the emergency room, they're required by law to take care of them, but at some point they go through a financial check on that particular person.
I don't remember if it's a financial check, and I will need to check my notes. There is later on where they try to identify some documentation, but as far as even knowing if that documentation is legitimate.
How about KHA? Since they're here, and I assume they would be representative of an organization that receives quite a bit of our $50 million of our funding.
Good morning. Hi, Sarah Lynn with KHA. Through the chair. So we, the students that KHA works with have to be part of Duval County public school system or a private school. So we get their student ID. So essentially what we're doing is relying on the school system in some form to check that. We then don't go also check it.
Are there students in our school system, educate me, that are not in the country legally?
So I believe so, and I do think that's, I mean, I don't want to, you probably know better than I do. I think that's kind of up for debate right now, whether school systems should look more into this. But I do think that there is ways that folks who are not citizens to receive school services. I think that is correct. But we are serving children that are in the school system. So we don't then go and check again for it's, and I will agree that it's just would be a huge burden on the providers, especially those that are serving, like 2,000 kids a day to check that. So I think that's more just what I'm concerned, the administrative burden.
I guess my frustration is that for the 4 years we let, God knows, 20 million people into this country, and there was not a lot of hollering and screaming by a lot of people, and now we're facing the consequences of that. Mm-hmm. And it just seems like we have got to get a hold of this situation and understand who's in this country, and whether they're adults or children, we need to understand that. And I think this bill begins that process. Is it perfect? I don't know. There's a lot of information here, but we have got to start a process to where we know who's here. And we're responsible for Duval County here, but just very frustrating that we don't know that, and we should know that. Thank you.
All right, we're going to go. We got all these folks in the queue over here, and then we'll come back around. Councilmember Boylan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, in speaking to the amendment Councilmember Romero offered, I did go through it in detail on Friday, so I have a pretty good understanding. It's a pretty straightforward amendment to the process, and that's why I supported it today. It's going to be more difficult for me to support the bill without that amendment involved in there because it speaks to the care of individuals, particularly the youth. My concern, and I want to raise this, and I'm not sure who to the chair to who I should direct this question, but I'm looking at the CSG component of this, which is parts 4 and 6, if you will. The prospect of enforcement. We've got folks who show up at the Florida Theater, JSO. Are we going to be checking residency or citizenships as they come in through the WJCT, Ready to Learn programs, arts and entertainment programs, WJCT? How are we going to know if someone who's watching that program is an authorized alien? So I guess the question I would want to pose to someone who can answer, maybe Mr. Stefopoulos or somebody, how do we enforce this? How do we document this? And Councilman Salem just mentioned the fact the difficulty in doing that as it relates to the social services program. I think it's even greater challenge as it relates to the cultural service grants program. So is this just a statement that this bill is looking to make with respect to those organizations? Is there a viable opportunity to enforce what Section 6 calls for? Through the chair.
Through the chair to Councilmember Boylan. So what the legislation accomplishes is in each of those grant-funded categories throughout our code, the top, I would say 3, Kids Hope Alliance, Chapter 118 grants and direct contracts, and the Cultural Service Program, it requires that a contractual provision be included in each of those grant agreements when funds are given to a recipient agency that prohibits the use of the city funds for the provision of services or support to any unauthorized alien. How that is enforced, I think, may differ depending on the administering department or agency for the contracts that would be issued for those programs and services. And there's been some difficulty in that expressed by the administration and Dr. Grass with respect to not knowing who the student IDs are issued to the student. The other part about Kids Hope Alliance is they also might provide ancillary services to families, so it's not necessarily just the student that's receiving the services, but how they don't have potentially a mechanism to confirm the parent's status. So I think to the extent that the different administering departments may require a certification by the receiving agency could be an option, or they could perform an audit of the services to see if they can, and that's a much more involved process administratively. Other than that, and of course the introducer may also have some thoughts on how he envisioned it to be enforced. The other option would be is you could discuss various carve-outs. There was one provided in the Amaro amendment that addressed other aspects, not necessarily the cultural services piece. There would be different alternatives you could take to try to carve out to capture those instances where they're providing services in the form of tickets to events or television programming that it's not knowingly or intentionally provided to unauthorized aliens, or you would have to think through some various alternatives, I think.
And I think, thank you. And to that end, my great fear is the CSG application is going to have a box. Check this box. Do you aver that you do not, provide services to unauthorized aliens in this process? And I, with good conscience, as the CEO of WJCT at the time, I couldn't sign that. I couldn't guarantee that there were not unauthorized aliens watching, WJCT or listening to NPR radio. I just think, and I guess I would turn to Councilman Diamond, if you had some thoughts as to the rationale as to why you thought this was important to do, and your thoughts on how this should be enforced.
Through the chair to Councilman Boylan. So first of all, we're not asking the right question here. I understand your frustration, but the issue is an open border, which has now forced this issue on us. I'm not forcing this issue. The issue is here because we had an open border. We have people who don't have food, who don't have housing, who fought for their country in Duval County, and we're saying we don't have money for them. But instead we have money for people who are not here legally, who literally broke the law when they got here. So that's the situation we're in. The bill is supposed to bring that to life. So the very specific question you're asking, what do we do about enforcement? So, and we'll use PFG or any of those if you'd like to. So first of all, the administration has an incredible amount of authority here, right? We are legislators. We have the power of the purse. We can put restrictions on. But ultimately, it's their job. And We literally have a bill that is doing something very similar to this that Councilwoman Cumber passed on sexual predators are not allowed to get money for grants, right? So here's the deal. This is my license. I can get services. That's the enforcement mechanism, which is what every other county and city and municipality and state that is passing similar legislation is doing. It's very easy to get a license in America. The second thing is, in our contracts with our providers, we can literally say, this is the standard, right? That's why we have an executive to provide administrative function, right? But we passed a bill, and the mayor, I don't think the mayor is going to do anything helpful with this, but it's our job to do the right thing and enforce it and implement it. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Clark Murray, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Reingold, if you would come forward. Ms. Stepopoulos stated that you were the author of this particular bill. The amendment. Okay, so then you may not need to come forward. Have a seat. Thank you for now. Okay, so to address the first parts of it, in regards to requiring the mayor's office to have various reports, and I think within like 30 days, I think this month was the month that they were supposed to have some kind of report if this bill had gone through at the time that it was anticipated. I think it's burdensome. I think it's an overreach on our part to ask them to do those things in regards to employment, in regards to any of the applications, in regards to federal grants, in regards to public housing. It's burdensome. And that's a legal term, and that's a legal defense in regards to some type of legislation or law. So the other part that I really want to hone in on has to do with the housing portion. So through the chair to Ms. Stepopoulos, I think were you the one who actually wrote? Okay. So my initial concern, which is still existing now, has to do with the housing portion. How is this going to be implemented, the housing portion of it, without violating the Fair Housing Act, without violating Public Law 117-103? How is this going to be implemented? How is it going to be enforced? And that can be, Mr. Stepopoulos, you can answer that, or the bill sponsor, introducer, can answer that as well.
Through the chair to Councilmember Clark Murray. So the housing piece is only pertaining to the directive for the mayor's office to provide a report. There's nothing in here pertaining to instituting a new policy with respect to potential unauthorized aliens within public housing. So that provision just says that that's part of the report that was being requested in the mayor's office, that they should supply information regarding the number of unauthorized aliens, if any, that reside in the public housing under our jurisdiction. There was nothing further in the bill that would implement a policy pertaining to if there are any in public housing that they would not be allowed, or that there would be some sort of provision that mandated some sort of change or different policy pertaining to those individuals. It was informational only.
Okay, thank you for that. So with that being said, once again, how are these persons going to be identified? Because I see this as tantamount to me going to some kind of apartment complex, me filling out an application, and they asking me a question being on the application, or they ask me verbally, are you pregnant? Because that shouldn't be a stipulation of getting an apartment. Are you from the west side of town as opposed to the south side of town? That's the kind of question this is. That's what this bill is doing. And it is an overreach, it's inappropriate, and it's not our job. Our jobs as a local institution, as a local government, our job is to enact laws that help with services, help with roads. This is way beyond our purview, in my opinion. Additionally, it's just bad legislation, and I think it's disingenuous. Because once again, we're targeting a group, and you have to identify that group. How are you going to identify that group without violating their civil rights? And it's very questionable. And once again, the motivation for this, I think, is to impress people who aren't in the city. And it's not needed. And I wish we had done this like weeks ago because I was really ready. I've moved on mentally from this bill because I got notes all over it because it's so ridiculous. I'm going to stop right there, Chair. Thank you.
All right. Go back around for a second time. Councilmember Peluso. Hold on, Councilmember Mar. Oh, you're on your own motion? Okay, go ahead. Councilmember Mar, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to piggyback on something Mrs. Salem said that I agree with, and frustration. I find it frustrating that Brittany nor Dr. Grass could give me an emphatic yes or no. I didn't feel any conviction in the response, and that I find frustrating. As a dad who has put kids through the public school system, I could not get my kids enrolled in kindergarten unless I proved residency and vaccination shots and things of that nature to prove that they were legitimate. I could not get them in the front door. If I were applying for public housing, I would not be able to do that unless I demonstrated residency and a whole threshold of criteria, if you will. I could not even get on the list of public housing. If I went to UF Health, and because of the Hill-Burton Act and the money that we provide for medically indigent, I'd get treated, but then the hospital would require some kind of financial history to know where I am, what I do, who I am, that they can recover, if not all, some of the money that has been spent. So I believe there are systems in place, there are checks to somehow mitigate, if not stop, the use of our services to those who are not legitimately eligible to receive it. And that's why I think the legislation is not necessary. Should there be reporting? Yes. I don't have a problem with the reporting. I think there has to be some accountability on both sides of the dais. There has to be some accounting somewhere. And if creating a reporting mechanism is necessary, again, I don't think we need to codify the ordinances to do that. We can do that. We can make sure that there's a reporting mechanism in place. But I just rise to express my frustration with the fact that I couldn't get any conviction in the response to Mr. Salem's questions. Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else on the bill for the second time? No? I know you're going to make a motion to withdraw. I'll just add a few comments here, going last in the queue, I guess. You know, I hear all the comments. They make sense. But at the end of the day, I guess a question to Councilmember Diamond, this is more about just getting the numbers, getting a report and saying, hey, this is how much money is going out to this organization is giving XYZ to these people. 50% are illegal aliens, or 20% are illegal aliens, the other ones aren't. Is that the bulk of this, or?
To the chair. So that's part of it, right? And then the other part is how we actually spend the money, right? Is the money going to, organizations that are doing that? And so what I would imagine the implementation looks like down the road is that when you apply for the money, you agree that you're not going to use Jacksonville taxpayer money for people who are not in Jacksonville legally.
Got it. Okay. That was kind of my understanding of it. And so I guess the other question then, and this is maybe to Ms. Stefopoulos, if people are here illegally and the city gives money to them, like through another organization or not through an organization, is that by nature illegal or is that legal?
To the chair, I think this kind of area of law with the new administration at the federal level is kind of constantly changing. I know there have been some recent state statutes put on the books that have tightened up from the state perspective how we handle unauthorized aliens within the state of Florida. And that's been challenged. There might be other challenges coming. I'm not aware of anything off the top of my head, and I'd be happy to look at this more closely, that would make our provision of money for services by a nonprofit or another type of entity, that in and of itself is an illegal action. I can't think of anything.
Sure.
But I'm happy to look into that further, because I don't want to mislead this committee, just knowing that that's kind of an ever-evolving area of law right now.
Yep, and I think that makes sense. And I mean, I guess kind of my concern is whether it's, whether we give it to them directly or indirectly, it's kind of, it's taking away from the greater pot of money that is sort of taxpayer money that is supposed to be used on services that, are also needs for the taxpayers that are paying in, so to speak. So that's only kind of my concern right now. But okay, that's something else. All right, so with that, I don't think we don't have any other discussion on the bill. Councilmember Peluso, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just kind of want to speak to a couple of different things and acknowledge some of the things that our colleagues have said. I appreciate that Ms. Topopoulos continues to say unauthorized alien, because that is the appropriate term. It is not illegal to enter the country. That is a civil violation. It is a civil violation, not a criminal violation. It does not affect criminal code. And you're laughing, but talk to a defense attorney. Look at U.S. code. It is a civil violation. It is not a criminal one. And that is part of the reason why it's been so interesting in the court system today. One of the questions was about the purpose of the government in general. The purpose of our government is to provide services to tax-paying residents. Individuals who live here, spend money here, rent here, are paying taxes. Doesn't matter what their status is. They're still paying taxes into our general fund, into our infrastructure taxes, into our gas taxes. We don't ask the status when they give us the tax dollars. Why are we asking them their status otherwise? To the point of what Ms. Tamara Clark-Murray mentioned, I mean, it just feels like a nanny state. The idea that we would have people seek a license or something is kind of ridiculous and completely outside the bounds of what this government should be doing. To the point of what Councilmember Boylan had mentioned about, CSG grants. Other grantees. What about the Jaguars? Somebody goes to a Jaguar game, we're going to ask them before they get a ticket on Ticketmaster what their status is? That's a municipal building. Five-Star Arena. We are wading into waters that are completely unnecessary for our city government. And I don't understand why we would do this. I think we are risking federal dollars for Jacksonville Housing Authority, for other our entire housing division seeks federal dollars. If we are violating federal law by doing stuff like this, which there are many states, there are many cities that are doing the opposite of this, and states like Texas still allow still allow people to go to universities who are unauthorized aliens, because they realize that by not educating or providing services to people who live in their society, the risk is there's possibility they'll commit crimes, that there will be more homelessness, that it will hurt and affect society in a negative way. So you try to make sure that people have access to these resources to make sure they don't become a problem for our government later on. Now with this bill in its current form, without the amendments, this literally goes after children. Know what you're voting for. Know what you're voting on. We cannot allow for this bill to stand. I make a motion to withdraw this bill.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the withdrawal. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on the withdrawal? Nope. Okay, all right. Go ahead and all in favor, raise your hand for the withdrawal. 3, 4, all against, all opposed, raise your hand. All right, the amendment fails. So, any other discussion on the bill? Yep, on the bill? Okay, Councilmember Salem, recognized.
I'll make it quick. There are organizations locally that help illegal people, but it's not taxpayer dollars. I think that's the difference. And I welcome those organizations to kick in and help where taxpayer dollars are not being used. Just want to tell a quick story. I have been out with the PATH team as they approach homeless people. And, of course, the question comes up, do you want to go home? put them on a bus. The first thing they have to do is show ID. We can't purchase them a bus ticket unless they have legal documentation. And if they don't have an ID, we take them to the tax collector's office where they do a screening on them. If they can't get an ID, we can't put them on a bus to send them home. It's as simple as that. If you put these processes in place, things will work. So I will support the bill. Thank you.
All right. So with that, I guess we will go ahead and open the ballot, which is technically a hand vote on this. So all in favor of 2025-138, signify by raising your hand. 3, 4, all opposed? All right. The bill fails. All right. Thank you, Councilmember Diamond.
Mr. Chair, was that I apologize, we had 4 against and 3 for?
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
that correct? Thank you.
Yep. 3, 4, 4 against. Okay. All right. It was. Oh, my bad. Oh, okay. What? Okay, it was 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of the bill, and then 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 against the bill. There we go. The teacher's keeping us in order here. Can we get Granicus back up? This is ridiculous. All right. Item number 3, 2025-189 is deferred. Item number 4, 2025-276. Looking for a motion on the amendment? Oh, sorry? Move the amendment. Okay, motion and a second on the amendment. Can someone please explain the amendment?
Through the chair of the committee, the amendment revises various council rules to remove any references to the election process, as this bill would replace that, and then also strikes Council Rule 1.103 as it relates to the annual declaration of intent to run for one of the officer positions.
Okay, are there any questions on the amendment? Seeing. Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Peluso.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so I just want to make sure. So it says an at-large member must have at least 1 year of experience as a council member to serve as the role of council president. That's what's in the amendment right now? That's in the bill right now, but not, okay. All right, I'll speak to that.
All right, on the amendment, Ms. Clark-Murray? On the mic? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, but I also want to amend a portion, so I don't know if we get to that yet, so maybe we should just focus on just...
Okay, let's pass the amendment, and then we'll get to the bill. All in favor of the amendment, signify by raising your hand. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All opposed? 1, 2, 3. All right. The amendment passes. All right. So, need a motion on the bill as amended? All right. Motion and a second on the bill as amended. We're going to start over here this time.
Thank you. I wanted to offer an amendment, actually.
Okay. Go ahead.
So, in reading the bill, one thing that I did not see is that the at-large council members had to have experience as a committee member. So I don't know if that's supposed to be implied or, just to the bill's sponsor or introducer. Is that implied through the chair?
Yep. Thank you, Ms. Clark-Murray, for the question. Actually, it does. As we just pointed out, an at-large member must have at least 1 year of experience as a council member to serve as the role of council president. So that means they have, by virtue of being having 1 year of experience, served on a committee.
Okay. So, although I thank you to Councilmember Boylan, I do understand that it does not state explicitly, and as our chair pointed out, Clark-Murray is a teacher. Clark-Murray has a degree in English. So, and this is law. So I'd like for it to actually state that. Do you have an issue with it stating that they must have at least 1 year experience as a committee member? Because that means that an at-large member who currently is not or has not been a committee member, committee chair, can become the president. And so I want it there explicitly or expressly.
So just to clarify, because you just said something right there, you want it to just be a committee chair or a committee member?
Committee chair, because you can be a member of a committee.
Yeah, that's
and there's different work, because you meet with, so
We got it. We
As
got
the
it.
chair. Okay,
I think
I
you
was
said
gonna
at first
explain, 'cause
committee
some people are
member,
looking
and
at
we
me
were like, well,
confused.
everyone's a committee member. So committee chair. That's the
Committee chair.
That's the motion. Okay. Well, we need a second on the motion if there's a second. Okay. We're not getting a second on that. All right. So we will go back to the bill as amended. I said we start over here, so we'll go to Councilmember Boylan. Should have gone to you first, but
Thank you.
technically you're first now anyways.
I shared with all of you a copy of the op-ed that ran in the Times-Union some months ago that spoke to this. A couple things I need to say. First and foremost, number one, this is not a reflection on the leadership today or in the past, as I note in the op-ed itself. And it's not personal. I opened myself up to some criticism by saying, well, this is just sour grapes. He didn't get elected, so he's going to make sure no one ever does ever again. And that really wasn't the case, because the fact of the matter is I introduced this bill 4 years ago when I had no aspirations for leadership because of the experience of the time. I saw a lot of hardship, a lot of animosity between many of my colleagues who, during that course of that process, created some difficult situations. Do I expect this bill to probably pass? Probably not. But I still think it's worth putting it out there for a second conversation. And why? Well, if you look at it, what is the role of at-large members? A note in the work of the commission back in 2013 that spoke to that. They're big picture folks. They're come into this mix as big picture folks. And, an opportunity. Conversely, as us district city council members, our focus should be on our districts first and foremost. And that's where our priority lies. That's where our time and attention should go. It doesn't say that there aren't capable folks who are serving at the district council level who certainly deserve the opportunity to serve as a council president. But I think it's really important for us to appreciate the fact if you choose to run for an at-large seat, it's now we're making, and we put this ordinance in place, it is now the people's opportunity to make a determination who's going to serve in the leadership on the council. As I note in the op-ed, arguably the second most important role in the city is serving as the council president. And we've seen some effective use of that role presently and in the past. And I think it really does shape the future of our city. And having that in the hands of 10 people, as opposed to the full population, I think is unfortunate. I think that misrepresents the importance of that role. And I think if you decide to run and you have aspirations for leadership, then you should run for an at-large seat. Pure and simple. The requirement to run for an at-large seat, to the credit of my colleagues who serve as at-large members, you have to garner the vote across the entire city. It is not a district event. And last but not least, I want to speak to the fact that the evolution of our leadership process. Councilman Salem, Councilman White, Council President White certainly can appreciate the time when we had contentious elections during our first terms, which led to some hard feelings across the board and my interest in introducing this bill the first time. Now we flipped that completely. Now we have an opportunity for folks to put themselves forward on March 1 and March 10. The die is already cast. That's happened the last 3 or 4 years as I can recall. There's an article in today's paper speaking about optics. Optics on the council, optics in government. The optics of that is not good. And I think we've put ourselves in a situation where we are seeing folks who are utilizing their opportunity to leadership in not following the process of operating in the sunshine and of not having those conversations well in advance in the sunshine that speaks to the qualifications, the intentions, the priorities of those who want to serve in a leadership position. So I felt strongly enough to bring this bill back as much for that as anything else, just to caution my particularly first-term colleagues to understand this doesn't play well out there. the fact that the die is cast within hours of the first opportunity to be done on leadership. We're not having the kind of conversations we need to have to make a determination who is best suited in those roles. And so I will continue to offer this bill without expectation, quite honestly. But I think I just want, if nothing else, to impress upon my colleagues 3 things. Number one, by making this an at-large role only, the voter now has a stronger voice in that opportunity of making those decisions on leadership. Number two, it takes some of the tension out of the work of working together. Those who are running for at-large can run on the prospect of that. And number three, and probably as important as anything, is that we address the process going forward if nothing changes, that we make it a sincere, open process, that folks have an opportunity to understand how and why a particular person has been elected to the position of leadership. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity.
All right, thank you. All right, we are on the bill, so we're going to keep going this way. Councilmember Salem, recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at the back wall. I see Bowman, and I see Wilson, and I see Hazuri, Newby, Freeman, and Salem, and now White. Those are the last 7. 4 at large, 3 district. Interesting. And I think if you go through that whole wall, I think you probably find similar situations. I agree with my good friend that my role on a day-to-day basis is a lot different than his. I can look at the big picture on things, and I think if you look at my record on just a variety of topics, it's more big picture stuff because I have the time to do that. I'm not dealing with calls on garbage, and generally not, and all the day-to-day stuff that district councilmen have to deal with. However, I do believe they have every right to get into the leadership if they want it and they're recognized by their colleagues. Now, clearly, I'm sure it's more balancing their day-to-day activities is much tougher when you're a district versus an at-large, but that's their choice if they decide to run. So I think the process works pretty well as it is, frankly. I think it's a good mix of at-large and district, and I would not want to prohibit my district colleagues from getting into leadership. So I will be voting against the bill. Thank you.
All right. Well, we were kind of going down the queue here, if that's okay. Councilmember Miller, do you have any comments? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the chair, I do want to express my thanks to Councilman Boylan. I think the discussion actually, even if this doesn't pass, I think the discussion is a good one to have with our colleagues, with the public. You know, who we have in positions of leadership can make all the difference in how we serve this city. I do agree with the idea about the big picture folks, the at-large folks. Longer term, we can be more focused on those type of things in an at-large position because we are freed up more to be able to do that. I see our role also as a backup to the district folks. When they've got much on their plate, they need backup on helping constituents get things resolved, happy to do that. But I do see that goodness in your thinking, Councilman Boylan, in this. You know, during our campaigns, those of us in the at-large seats, most of us went throughout the whole city, learning the whole city, learning the concerns, listening to everyone throughout the city. And many of us received over 100,000 votes to get into office versus 7,000 to 13,000 to depending on the district. So I get the goodness of that, of your thinking. However, if there is someone in a district seat, and Councilman Salem just pointed out some of them, he mentioned some of them, who really have good, solid leadership experience before they got on council and after they've been on council, I think those things really do matter. Now, some have suggested, like in my case, 30 years active duty Army, leading organizations of all levels. I think that matters. I think that's important. And the voters, in my case, I think, responded to that. However, the reality is, when we get on this council, it's our colleagues that make that call on leadership. So I respect that, and I have to believe that all comes out in the wash, that our colleagues consider that as well, not just the chair positions that you've held once you've gotten on council. And I certainly wouldn't want to hold somebody back who's in a district seat that really we collectively say that person would be a great leader. However, they're in a district seat, so we can't vote for them. We can only vote for the at-large folks. So I can't support this for that reason, mainly.
20 seconds.
But I also appreciate the discussion going forward. I think it's a healthy one to have. Who do we put in leadership? The right person with the right experience in the right position. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Councilmember Amaro, do you have any comments?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just through the chair to Mr. Boylan, quick question. When you say it's time to let the people decide, are you saying that the voters, through electing at large, will decide who is or should be the leader of City Council?
Thank you for the question, through the chair to Councilmember O'Mara. Yeah, it'll actually be on a rotation basis.
Okay.
So, I should point out, too, if I could, while I still have the floor, this bill does not impact anyone sitting on the council today. The whole idea is, I believe it's Ms. Stefopoulos, 2030, 2031. So at that point in time, you, or Councilmember Peluso, whatever, could continue to aspire to be and be in that position. But beyond that, just knowing full well that if you have aspirations to serve in leadership going forward, there'll be an at-large seat that you'll need to run for. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Mr. Boylan. Mr. Chair, I'm going to vote against this. I find there's a flaw in the reasoning because whether you're district or at-large does not clearly define your ability, your skill set, or the ability to lead. And we're talking about leadership of a body of peers. And the body of peers should be the one deciding who has that ability of influence and the wisdom to be the leadership of that body. And therefore, I'm not at this point ready to relinquish what historically has been the standard. And I don't want to put district council members in a box. I'm one of them. And when my voters went to the poll, they obviously saw something. And if that something was potential leadership, then they have the right to make that decision. And so I just find there's a little flaw, and I agree with you that there is an inherent problem of dies being cast, and that takes away the integrity of the process. And that's some in-house work that needs to be done. But to surrender the right of any member of this body who may desire to seek leadership by limiting that opportunity to 5 at-large individual, I think is the wrong approach. So I'm a no. Thank you.
All right, and we'll go to Councilmember Peluso, and if you can, just make sure you continue to put the timer on. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My first quick question was, what if all 5 at-large candidates get elected in the same year? So if you have to have 1 year of time as a committee member, how does one become council president? Through the bill sponsor? Like, let's say people run for tax collector or whatever else.
We actually didn't explore that in detail this time around, but I know we looked at it, the prospect of that 4 years ago, we took a look at, and I can't remember if there were in the history that's ever happened. The prospect of is minuscule, but I get your point.
Yeah, just
and which we could put some language in here that allows us to say in the event that.
I just want to make sure in case this did move forward. I've commented openly. I don't think I'm 100% on board with it as well. I do think that it's limiting to the other 14 council members, district council members. I think there's a lot of leadership there and leadership potential that could be that should be elevated and understood and appreciated. On top of that, I think because of the fact that we have the consolidated city government that we do, we're the mayor's executive branch, we're the legislative branch. If you look at counties like Orange County, the mayor is voted on county-wide, and they actually sit as a member of the county commission. You see a lot of non-strong mayor forms of government, or where there's a chairperson that's voted on by the entire electorate, and that's who kind of leads the whatever body it is, the city council or the county commission. Because we have the very secluded process that we have, where there's an entire executive branch, an entire legislative branch, I think it's perfectly within tradition, democratic tradition, that the legislative body is able to elect their officers as they see fit. So I really, from that perspective, I mean, I think if we had a different form of government, maybe we could have this conversation. I understand what you're asking for, and again, I've seen other counties and cities where it makes sense. I just don't think it necessarily makes sense here while we have the legislative body that we do. So I am going to vote against it as well. All that to say, I mean, yeah, the criticism of the process of electing officers is something that we've talked about, we've been a part of, and I think that is something to be discussed. I also personally would like to have a discussion one day about the future of the at-large positions. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of the at-large positions and whether or not, as we've grown to a city of 1 million people, how we feel about keeping at-larges, let alone expanding the body or contracting the body, making us full-time rather than part-time. There's other major questions that I have that I feel like this bill kind of might affect, as I hope to see other changes in our city. All that to say, I appreciate you doing this because we've had many conversations about this, but thank you.
All right. Councilmember Clark Murray, and then I guess we're ready to vote after this. Go ahead, Ms. Clark Murray, you recognize. Oh, and welcome, Councilmember Johnson. Appreciate you being here. I know you got a slate of bills coming up towards the end. We'll take them all up at once for you. And welcome back, Council President White. All right, go ahead, Ms. Clark Murray.
All right, thank you, Chair. I am going to echo some of the sentiments of my colleagues as well. When I joined council in 22, one council representative who happened to be a district council representative, she mentioned during council meetings that she thought about putting forth a bill to eliminate all at-larges. And at the time, I was just taken aback. I was like, why? Why would you do that to those who've been elected? And then sitting on this body for about 3 years, I understand where she was coming from. I do. With that being said, just to Councilmember Boylan, I think I understand the spirit of this bill. And I appreciate the spirit of this bill. But the issues that I find with it is that it narrows the candidates. It narrows the field. And I think that lends itself to additional issues that are beyond the walls of City Hall. Additionally, I think the issue is not so much who can become council president as much as it is the issue with the process. I think there's something that needs to be changed in the process. Exactly what that is, I don't know. And then the other thing I was going to emphasize was the fact that what you did not talk about earlier was the fact that it would not take effect, this bill would not take effect until 2031, which is, obviously he's considering those who are currently on council. Once again, although I do appreciate the spirit of this bill, I cannot support it as well. Thank you, Chair.
All right, and we'll go to Councilmember Boylan to close.
Mr. Chair, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do appreciate the opportunity. I'm heartened by the comments of my colleagues, recognizing we've got a flawed process. And if nothing more comes out of this conversation than from the first-term colleagues to recognize what they've experienced these past 2 years is not the norm as to how our elections should be taking place. So I will consider that a strong victory as we move forward. I'm not in a position or willing to withdraw the bill just yet, although I know full well its fate. I still think it warrants the conversation. well beyond this committee and as part of rules this afternoon and perhaps even next Tuesday. Thank you. Despite the slings and arrows I'm going to get in the meantime.
Yeah. I think there's probably 13 non-co-sponsors of the bill, but anyways. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open the ballot, and all in favor as amended of 2025-276, signify by raising your hand. 1. All opposed, raise your hand. All right, the bill fails. Oh, did we have, okay. Do I need to announce that? What was it, 6? 1-6, all right, against. Right. No 4-2-4. All right, moving on to item number 5. 2025-285 is deferred. Item number 6, 2025-291 is deferred. Item number 7, 2025-304. You need a second. Motion and a second on the amendment. Can someone please explain the amendment?
Through the chair to the committee, the amendment will attach a revised Exhibit 1, which is the term sheet to reflect the use of funds for this grant with Ability Housing will be subject to Chapters 118, Parts 1, 2, 4, and 5, and then also clarify required supporting documentation needed for future disbursement requests, and then also remove Exhibit 2, which was the intended budget amendment, as that has been deemed not necessary. Just to provide a little bit of context to how we got here, this grant was approved back in December of 23. It has been moving along, but with some changeover in the grants division. They deemed the support that was being provided by Ability Housing was insufficient to seek future reimbursements. And so working with the grants division, Ability Housing, we've determined that this would be the appropriate course to help them to move forward. If you'll remember, they are running a permanent supportive housing pilot project. It was funded $500,000 in attempts to see what the impact of housing 25 individuals on a permanent basis, how that would play out. I believe this was a recommendation of the CQLI committee.
All right. And we can take a verbal vote on this, right? Because it's just the amendment. We can do that. Okay, all in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. All right, we have a motion and a second on the bill as amended. Do we have to do a hand vote for this? Or can we just do it? Okay. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Councilmember Peluso.
Thank you, Chair. So I just want to make sure, so this money was already appropriated. Is this dollars that came out of the HIC fund, the special revenue fund, or is it general fund dollars?
Through the chair to Councilmember Peluso, this was half funded from Councilmember Salem's council president contingency at the time, and half funded out of the mayor's task force, $25 million.
Understood. I'd like to be a co-sponsor for this bill.
All right, Councilmember Boylan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe Mr. Peterson can answer this question. I'm a little disconcerting to me that we're taking $50,000 out of the program itself and put it towards administration. It seems to me that should have been addressed well in advance. I think you spoke to it briefly, but it does concern me that we are taking dollars that's supposed to be used for the program to administer the program at this point in time.
Through the chair to Councilmember Boylan, so that's part of the reason that we have the amendment. For more context, when there was a changeover in the person administering this grant in the grants division, Ability Housing, the grant term sheet with Ability Housing was approved on a per-person service fee, if you will, rather than a very detailed budget as we see on most of our direct contracts. And so the new administrator of the grant requested sufficient supporting documentation for all of their expenses when that's not how the grant term sheet was approved by council. And so in order to get to that point, Ability Housing proposed moving some funding around, specifically, as you mentioned, moving $50,000 from client support up to administrative services, because they do have administrative expenses overseeing the project, but that was built into the per-person rate that was approved in the initial term sheet. Working with Ability and then working with the grants division, our office has come up with a solution where they're going to provide the support of the individuals as they sign in, how many days they were at the facilities, and in doing so, we're not moving that $50,000 from client support up to administrative services and sticking with the per service fee that was originally approved.
Thank you. Through the chair, again, I want to reemphasize the CQLI report really talked about long-term housing with wraparound services. I appreciate Councilman Salem's effort in making that a possibility. I want to ensure we continue to show success with this program, and I don't want to see this frittering away the money on administrative needs if we don't need to. It should be focusing on the intent, which is to support housing for the homeless. So I do support the bill, and I do support it. I just want to make sure we don't go any further down this path. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And just so committee members know, Granicus is back up and running, and that is a big thanks to Mr. Steve back there, and he's going to be logging us all in remotely. So if you see your screen start moving around, that is that is Steve doing his job, and we can start getting in the queue and everything. On the PC, but not the Surface. Okay, cool. All right, so we have no other discussion. Let's go ahead and open the ballot and raise your hand for the bill. All right. Any opposed? Seeing none, okay. We have approved 2025-304 as amended. All right, moving on to item number 8, 2025-317. All right, we have a motion and second on the bill. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by raising your hand. Any opposed? The bill carries. 2025-317 is approved. Number 9, 2025-318. A motion and a second on the bill. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by raising your hand. Any opposed? The bill carries. You have approved 2025-318. Item number 10, 2025-320. We have a motion and a second on the bill. No speakers. All right, all in favor of 2025-320 signify by raising your hand. Any opposed? By your action, you have approved 2025-320. Item number 11, 2025-322. We have a motion and a second on the bill. Any discussion? Mr. Peterson, did you want to speak on this?
Through the chair, I apologize. This bill should be marked with an amendment to amend the CIP, the $15,500 that is coming out of the Mandarin Park Renovate ADA restrooms is a project in our CIP, and so we need to amend the CIP to reflect that reduction. And then as a result, typically we would have this bill, agenda also marked as a 2/3 vote required by full council.
Okay, do we have a motion on the amendment? All right, we have a motion and a second on the auditor's recommended amendment. Everyone in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. All right, any opposed? The amendment carries. Motion and a second on the bill as amended. Any discussion? Councilmember Salem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mention the 15.5 being used for this is coming out of the DOGE savings that we have identified, and this will be the first spend out of that fund. So pleased that we were able to do something very nice in the Mandarin area. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. I guess those at-large council members are good for something after all. All right. All in favor of 2025-322 signify by raising your hand. Any opposed? All right. By your action, you have approved 2025-322 as amended. Item number 12, 2025-325. Motion and a second on the amendment. Can someone please explain the amendment?
Through the chair of the committee, the amendment will remove the emergency language from the bill as originally filed, clarify that the funding will be used to offset registration fees and the cost of the neighborhood's event. Also, we'll amend the 5-year IT schedule to reflect the reduction in the grant funding, and then attach a revised Exhibit 1 to correct some account information we had requested by the accounting division.
All right. Councilmember Johnson, did you want to speak to the amendment? Oh, yeah. We're on the amendment. Do you want to speak to the amendment? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Councilmember Johnson.
And one of the reasons, thank you, Mr. Chair, for indulging me for a moment. One of the reasons I'm late, I was in a meeting earlier, and I got some additional information. I want to say thank you publicly again to Councilmember Salem for helping me to identify what seemed like there could be a dearth in opportunity for this, because my goal was to make sure that the neighborhood conference that our community associations were able to attend. In research and in conversation, I understand there was some additional funds that would be realized through a vote on the Finance Committee tomorrow. My request for you, Mr. Chair, is that we either do one of two things, either vote to uphold this or to defer this and to allow an amendment to go in tomorrow's Finance Committee once we have the specific number that it would cost for this conference. My goal, though, is what I plan to do is to withdraw this bill and amend 340, which is going to be heard later. I was able to find $200,000, and I put that other 100 to the contingency fund because we had that 26% pullback that we had to do. Once those funds are confirmed, I would then amend 340 to make it 200,000 as opposed to 100,000.
Understood. Okay, so let's go ahead and defer 2025 325 if that's what if you're okay with that. Okay, cool. All right. So 2025 325 is deferred. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Tofopoulos.
With the deferral, is it acceptable to the committee that we not file the amendment that was just taken up? I don't know that you all voted on it. You may have.
We may have.
But
Unfile the amendment.
we will not. Okay, thank you.
All right. We didn't. Okay, cool. All right. Anyways, moving on. 12 is deferred. It wasn't amended. It was unfiled, yada, yada. All right. Number 13, 2025 326. We have motion and a second on the bill. Any discussion? Okay, and guys and girls, our queue is available now. Is that... somebody click on it on your PC. Okay, the queue is working. The queue is working. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. All right, thank you. So with that, we will go ahead and open the ballot and record the vote.
Seven yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2025-326. Wow, that feels so much better. Doesn't that feel so much better, everyone? Golly. All right, number 14, 2025-327. Second. Motion and second on the bill. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, open the ballot, record your vote.
Seven yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2025-327. All right. Okay. Item number 15, 2025-330. Motion and a second on the amendment. Can someone please explain the amendment?
Through the chair of the committee, the amendment will clarify the use of funds that the dollars will be used for part-time salaries, the purchase of a vehicle, equipment, and supplies for the mobile air monitoring, and then also correct language as it reflects the part-time hours will be used instead of positions, and there are various scriveners.
All right. On the bill, Councilmember Paluso, are you on the amendment? All right. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. Motion is second on the bill as amended. Now we'll go through the queue. Councilmember Paluso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to be added as a co-sponsor to this bill. A lot of my districts in the Hill Zone 1, we had this conversation, I think, last time about this bill. Very supportive of it.
Councilmember Boylan, you're recognized.
Thank you. I believe I saw Mr. Richardson in the House. Mr. Richardson, if you wouldn't mind, as you know, we appropriated some funding in the last circle with respect to this. How does this differentiate from the dollars we recently appropriated for air quality monitoring?
James Richardson with the Jacksonville Environmental Protection Board. Through the chair, this funding leverages the EPA grant that was recently approved by the board, or by the council, I'm sorry. What this funding does, with the Environmental Protection Board funding, we will purchase the van that will be used to house the equipment. The EPA funding is purchasing the equipment. We will also be, with the board's funding, providing interns who will analyze the data, provide a foundation for how the data will be analyzed and how we'll use that moving forward.
Well, I very much appreciate the increased interest and activity in this area. Will we be seeing reports of what's happening in terms of Is that something that traditionally comes before the council?
Through the chair, it does not traditionally come before the council, but we are more than willing to provide that information to the council. The board would probably review the information first, but then we're happy to share it with the administration, with the council, and with the general public. That is anticipated, as a matter of fact, as a part of the project to develop some public-facing methodology to share the information.
Well, certainly not relevant to today. I think perhaps in the future Neighborhoods Committee meeting, a report a year from now or so on terms of the progress and what has been discovered through the work of this complementary bill, in effect, I think is probably warranted, and I would love to hear more about that. And particularly as we talked last time about the area of the north side, the morgue, and the kind of things that's happening that we want to make sure we stay addressed and make sure the council's aware of. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All righty. Well said. And obviously, if you ever do want to present, you can just reach out to this committee in the future, and they will be happy to accommodate that. So, no other speakers in the queue. Open the ballot. Record your votes.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you have approved 2025-330 as amended. Item number 16, 2025-331. Motion a second on the bill. Ms. Clark-Murray, did you want to speak? Go for it.
Thank you, Chair. So everyone, committee members, you have a green folder. And so this bill is about a street name change. And you see the first page, and if you look in your folder, you'll see the first page has to do with the ordinance itself. And then the next page has to do with the honoree. You'll see some information on the honoree. And so this was initiated actually by Tiffany's mother and her family. And basically they want to change the name of the street that actually leads to where they have their foundation center off of Lenox Avenue. It's actually called Lenox Lane. And they've gone through the entire process in regards to getting to this point. So they've put in the request. They have gone through the process of notifying those affected. There was only one person, property owner, affected, and that person did respond with a consent agreeing to the name change. And that occurred in March, and then it went through the proper channels as far as the 911 Emergency Address Advisory Committee and the Historic Preservation. They both recommended the change unanimously. And the only aspect that is of concern for this particular application has to do with the waiver aspect. And if you look at the back portion of your handout or the folder, you will see that it talks about Tiffany and how she lost her life, which was a senseless shooting. And although she does not have the prominence and has done something that is notable in the city or the state or the nation, but just the fact that how she died, and as a high schooler, and just the grief and the sorrow, and as a result of her death, how her family has reached out and created a foundation to benefit different people. It allows them to apply for the waiver portion of the ordinance governing street name changes. And for those reasons, I ask that you approve this bill. And then if Ms. Pollock has anything that she wants to add, she's welcome to come up.
All right, Councilmember Peluso. Ms. Pollock, you can just stand by, I guess, for questions, or if that's okay. Go ahead, Councilmember Peluso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair to Councilmember Clark-Murray. I just want to make sure, so I'm not seeing a lot of residences, so it's really just kind of that center and maybe one other resident, and again, they're okay with it?
Yes, through the Chair to Councilmember Peluso, that is exactly right.
Awesome. And then I also just want to make sure, so obviously there's Lenox Avenue. Is it the same Lenox? Do we know? Is it the same Lenox family? Are we familiar with that?
Lenox family?
I don't know. This is Lenox Square, and then I know Lenox Avenue is a large...
Okay, so this is
road.
in the Lackawanna area. It is to the west of Mallison Park, And just like there is a diagram in the folder, the location, under the section of location. So the only addresses that are impacted, those buildings, that's the actual foundation. They occupy those buildings.
Yeah, I'm just, through the chair, I'm just asking the question, like, there's multiple streets named after Lennox. I just want to know if it's the same Lennox family.
This is Lennox Lane.
Square.
Square. I'm sorry. This is Lennox Square. So you have the primary road.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, through the chair to Councilmember Peluso. I am not exactly. I guess I'm not really understanding what it is that you're asking.
I just want to know if we're going to hear from people saying like, "Oh, my grandfather, John Lennox. It's named after him, and we care so much about our legacy, and if we're changing that." I'm just asking the question. Or if we could say like, hey, there's also Lennox Avenue, Lennox family, you guys got plenty of notoriety in this town.
Yeah, I can go ahead and clarify.
So based on the report from the historical preservation, there isn't any markers or landmarks to the Lennox.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a family. That's something I need to research. Yeah.
We're good. Okay. Yep.
Thank
Lennox
you.
Avenue is still still alive and well, and the Lennoxes aren't coming out of the woodworks on this one. So.
There we go.
All right.
I know.
Yeah, we're good.
Thank you. Thanks, Jimmy. I'm asking myself. I'm like, I've been in Jacksonville all my life, and I've never heard of the Lennox family. But if Ms. Pollock, you want to add anything? If not, if the committee's satisfied, then I'm done. Thank you.
All right.
Nothing to add.
Okay. Good deal. And. All right. So I think we have a motion and a second on that. So let's go ahead and open the ballot and record your votes.
Seven yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you approve 2025-331. And if you will, go ahead and add me as a co-sponsor on that, please. And if the Lennoxes have any questions, they can tell them they can call me. Anyways, moving on to 2025-338. Motion to second on the bill. Any discussion? Seeing none. Open the ballot, record your vote.
Seven yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2025-338. Item number 18, 2025-340. Motion and a second on the amendment. Can someone please explain the amendment?
Through the chair of the committee, the amendment would make the same changes as the prior bill, reflecting a reduction in the funding for this grant application solution within the 5-year IT plan, and then attach revised Exhibit 1 to BT to correct account information.
Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. Councilmember Johnson on the amendment? Okay, all in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. Motion is second on the bill as amended. All right. Now, Councilmember Johnson, do you want to open up for questions only? Do we have one? Okay. All right. Go ahead. Councilmember Salem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. The term strategic initiatives is used, and that seems to maybe restrict the use of the funds by a council member. I would make an amendment to just strike that language so that we're not tied to that specific language in appropriating these funds in the future.
Yeah, did you want to hear from Councilmember Johnson? I think you... Go ahead, Councilmember Johnson. Yeah, I mean...
I'm certainly okay with that. I will say the reason being, I know during our strategic initiatives times, there was a 26% reduction that we had to make in those strategic initiative funds. So when I found these funds, or when we realized them through savings, I wanted to make sure that they were at least in the contingency. So for those council members that were not able to complete those projects in our strategic initiatives, they could go back and use it for that. But I don't think it would stop that process. It wouldn't. So I'm certainly okay with removing the language strategic initiatives from that.
That's
okay.
my amendment.
All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to strike strategic initiatives, and then it would just go to council contingency as a whole. Anyone on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. And we will roll those up into one neighborhoods amendment. So, yep. All right. Motion and second on the bill as amended, and now we'll go back through the queue. Councilmember Miller, and then we'll go back to you, Councilmember Johnson.
Yep. I just wanted to, I heard you say earlier, Councilman Johnson, you found $200,000. Are we getting to that in another amendment? Is that where we're going next?
Through the chair, thank you, Councilman Miller. No, this is the amendment that I would put in would take those funds, and that's why I corrected myself, tried to edit a little bit. Those funds were realized when, although we had appropriated certain dollars to IT, to programs, as you'll see in the amendments that are already here, as they went back through it, all of the funds weren't spent. So when that cost savings was realized, they then reported out. We looked at it, said, hey, this is something that they don't need for other projects in IT. When that came about, I knew the neighborhoods thing was coming up. I really wanted to support that. So that's why I put that in. But I will say, and this will I'm going to wrap my comments up in this too, so you don't have to come to me after this. My goal is once we are locked down and know that all of those funds that need to be taken care of for the neighborhoods conference are done and taken care of, which we'll know tomorrow, I plan to hopefully get one of the finance committee members tomorrow to amend this to include that $100,000, so it'll be $200,000 as opposed to $100,000 that goes into the council contingency.
Thank you. And also through the chair, I know there was previously considerable conversation about why isn't this coming from the neighborhoods department, because part of this was to support their efforts. I don't know, did we ever answer that? I know Councilman Salem brought this up. The department talked about it, but we never, I think, answered that question, because to me, that makes a lot more sense coming out of the neighborhoods department and their budget and what was possible than capturing what has been saved on an IT project for this. So I just want to know, was that resolved?
Yes, it was. I remember during our both neighborhoods and finance committees before, they were waiting on another bill to be passed to make sure the funds were there. But that's what Councilman Salem brought up. And when Dr. Salem did, I didn't know that at the time. That's why I've been having meetings to find out if those funds are there. The delta that exists, because that's why I put the language, it's not this bill, but in the previous bill that says if there's any additional funds that were saved that do not go specifically toward neighborhoods, those would go into the contingency as well. But the reason I don't think they knew in the neighborhoods department, and I get it, these are huge budgets, and maybe there are programs that didn't go through or things they had budgeted for that they didn't get to implement. I get that. So when I saw that there would still be maybe a $63,000 deficit for the neighborhoods conference, I made sure that I put that language into the initial bill that said all those funds would go back to contingency. But we did answer it. The funds should be there. I agree with you, council member. They should be coming from the neighborhoods department, but I think it'll all be realized tomorrow in finance once everything is done and that particular bill is moved.
Okay, thank you. And the only other comment I had was my only concern overall in just overall concept and approach is through the chair. Do we set a precedent for any other conferences that come to the city? And I believe this one they're based in Oregon, I believe, where they're headquartered. And I get, we want to get participation throughout the city, but as this all seemed, and I think Councilman was just trying to help here, but it seemed like so much last minute and we didn't know and the expenses weren't known, but this conference was known for a while. Do we set ourselves up here for saying the council is the backstop for registration fees for any conference that comes into Jacksonville and a council member says, I want to help them out, or the neighborhoods fell short or whatever? I just want to put that out there. I'm concerned about going forward. I get a one-off, and these were I think extreme last-minute circumstances here, but I'm concerned about the precedent going forward. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. We have no other committee members in the queue. I think Yeah, sure. Go ahead and if you want to wrap it up for us.
This is my wrap up, and I do appreciate you bringing that up, Councilman Miller, but I do believe that I just don't think there's any there. And the reason being is because there are myriad conferences that come to this city, as we learned, as we went through and worked with Visit Jacksonville and so many others. But the difference with this is this was a conference about neighborhoods for neighborhoods. And the reason for these funds were so that our neighborhoods in this city could attend this conference at no cost. So that was a specific member. I don't think there's, I certainly wouldn't support just every conference. You know, Dr. Salem, of course, is a pharmacist. What if, I would love to see the pharmacists of America come to Jacksonville. I don't think we need to backstop them with $100,000. But if there are community organizations and we do support neighborhoods, I think this would have been a good use of funds. I still stand by the fact that the neighborhoods department, with those funds that are going to be realized from what they're doing now, this was a good use of them to put them in this department. I saw so many people from community organizations when I went to the conference to see what was going on. I was empowered by that, but I just don't think it sets a bad precedent, especially when it deals with this kind of organization. Professional organizations, fraternal, sorority, go to Visit Jacksonville, see what's there. But I think this was the right use of funds, and I don't look at the council as a backstop for this money. Thank you.
Councilmember Miller, you're recognized.
Yeah, real quick, through the chair, I get what you're saying exactly, and I support most of what you just said there. But I just wanted to put that on the record, because once we do this, then we do in fact open a door for someone else to make a good, strong case, whether they participate in the conference or not, whether they're associated with any of the people or not. That draws you more into the event. I get it, but I just wanted to put that out there on the record that, and personally, I'll place more scrutiny on anything going forward, because I don't see that should be an ongoing role of the council. But in this case, I understand and I will support it. Thank you.
All right. No other speakers in the queue. Open the ballot. Record your votes.
Seven yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you have approved 2025-340 as amended. Item number 19, 2025-341. Motion is second on the bill. No discussion. Open the ballot. Record your votes.
Seven yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2025-341. Councilmember Johnson, thank you for joining us. All right. Item number 20, 2025-361 is deferred. Item number 21, 2025-362. We have a motion and a second on the bill. And this is for the $12 million coming out or being put back into the CIP. So, Mr. Peterson, do you want to kind of explain the maneuvering of this so we can all kind of be on the same page?
Sure. Through the chair to the committee. Excuse me. In the current year CIP, so the fiscal year 24-25 CIP, the city council and the mayor are committed to a new $20 million incentive match, if you will, to the Jacksonville Zoo to be funded at $4 million over a 5-year time period. And so the way that has worked is that the zoo will go and spend $8 million. They submit for reimbursement. The city will reimburse them up to 50%, up to the maximum amount approved in that year. So theoretically, $4 million on an annual basis. This bill is asking to move up the final 3 years, so $12 million up to the current year, and not be held to that same match reimbursement requirement. The city will pay the zoo based on an invoice worked and performed basis, and then the zoo will report on their matching of dollars against that $12 million up until the point that they have met the $12 million. Is that?
That's good for now. We'll go through the queue here, and we'll start with Council President White.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And through the chair, I just wanted to, I certainly appreciate the concerns that the auditors has, but if we want to get a little deeper with this one, I'm sure you will, and I think Mr. Romero can put some light on it, and also Mr. Hagan is in the audience that can, when I met with him, I met with the zoo. I feel this is the right thing to do, but they can answer any questions that y'all may have. Thank you.
All right, we'll go to the speakers here. Councilmember Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the chair, I just wanted to see if someone could address, maybe it's Mr. Hagan, the auditor concern about the required matching dollars, and what the plan is for that to make sure both sides have met our obligations for this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember. And through the chair. So I think what's important to note is, and Philip did do a good job explaining this is the second basic tranche of a match. The previous 5 years was a 5-year, $5 million match a year for a total of 25. So in this past CIP budget, you approved a 5-year for $4 million a year. So we're in the first year of that, as Philip explained. Also, what's important to note is that and y'all may know more about this better than I do on this, is that this zoo has to spend $1 million, and then the city would then reimburse them for $500,000. So that's put a cash flow constraint on the zoo. When they first signed the construction documents back in 24, the actual estimated cost for it was about $46 million. So our private raise was matching that, as well as the contributions from the city. So we anticipated being able to fully fund that. The costs have gone up to about $71 million now because of the increase in construction costs. So that's why we're here today. It's a cash flow issue. I think it was a little confusing that we are still having to meet our obligation of a match. We're just not we're asking for the money up front to help with the cash flow issue. We will still have to meet the obligation of the matches in years 3, 4, and 5 of those years.
And through the chair, Mr. Hagan, so you don't foresee any concerns meeting those obligations in those out years?
No, sir. We've had a lot of success in private raising dollars, and so we fully anticipate meeting those. We actually, I think, have about $8 million currently sitting in agreements, gift agreements from donors to the zoo, and we've had a lot of success doing that. Again, it's just because we have those gift agreements when they agree to give the contribution, we don't actually get those dollars to then put into the project right away. They're kind of drawn out sometimes over several years.
Thank you. Through the chair, Mr. Hagan and Mr. Chair.
All right, Councilmember Salem, you're recognized. Start the clock, please. Thank you. Hey, we got a full queue, man, and we got,
Thank you for recognizing me. My research shows that during the Curry administration, there was $25 million. It was $5 million a year, and there was a match for every one of those $5 million. And I'm looking at Philip, and he's nodding his head. For the first year or two, that's how this one worked. $4 million, there was a match, and I'm big into matches. I think that's the way government should work. Organizations that get this money, they provide a match, and I love the zoo. My kids, grandkids all go to the zoo. But we're getting away from the match. And we're going to front $12 million here with the hope and belief that they will come back at some later time, but there's no teeth to that on that $12 million. I'm just not comfortable with that. I don't think that's the way it was arranged originally, and I've not talked to the zoo. No one's come to the zoo to see me. I had a call from Mr. Hagan early this morning. It was in meetings and such, and never got a chance to call him back. So unless I can get some better understanding of this, I'm a no today. I see it's in finance tomorrow. Maybe I can get a better understanding, but I'm big into matches. I think that shows the commitment of both organizations.
Councilmember Morrow, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to support the legislation for a number of reasons. Number one, and very fundamental to why we should be concerned, I see the zoo as a city asset. It's a city asset. And we have to invest in our assets to sustain them and provide the amenities and quality of life to our community. Number two, as Mr. Hagan pointed out, the zoo is currently in a transformation phase, and it's creating this large manatee exhibit entrance to enhance the foot traffic and elevate Jacksonville's asset, the Jacksonville Zoo and Botanical Gardens, to a different level. And as he pointed out, it's cash flow. Number three, I think the board of directors there has made a historical demonstration that it has matched and will continue to match, and again, because of the existing relationship as to who owns the asset and things of that nature. I don't know if we need to put language in there. I appreciate the council auditor's concern, but if there wasn't a need, there wouldn't have been an ask. And so there is a need to get this project moving forward, to finish the redesign and redevelopment of the zoo, to be able to have an amenity in this city that improves the quality of life, and to have an asset that we as all elected officials can be proud of. So I, having sit in some of those meetings and seeing the commitment that the members of that board have made, seeing the work that they've done, I think this is a very solid investment for this legislative body to make. Thank you.
Councilmember Clark Murray, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair to Mr. Peterson first. The debt management fund loan, tell us a little bit about that. And while you're preparing to do that, my concern is with wanting the remaining amounts of the final 3 years in advance. I know there's an anticipation of our general fund, maybe the taxes or something being lower than it has in previous years. So I'm just concerned about what this particular fund is and how it operates. If you would expound on that, Mr. Peterson.
Absolutely, through the chair to Councilmember Clark Murray. So the debt management fund is just the name that's given to our fund that it's our borrowed dollars. So when we go out and issue debt, it's under that fund, and that's how we fund a number of our capital projects, of which the zoo falls under since it is a city asset. The $20 million that was put into this year's CIP for the next 5 years was all anticipated to be issued with debt. And I believe, don't hold me to this, but that the majority of the $25 million that we covered in the prior 5-year agreement was also funded with debt. How this impacts our general fund is that it just speeds up a little bit the interest payments and the principal payments, obviously, that would be incorporated into our debt portfolio rather than stringing those out over the next 3 fiscal years.
Thank you for that. Through the chair to Mr. Hayden, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, good. My question is, the $12 million, is there another number that's acceptable to the representatives at the zoo? I just like a portion of those of each year, as opposed to the amount that was asked for each year, and then that total. Is there another number that's more acceptable, or it could be acceptable as well?
Sure. So without putting an exact dollar amount on it, we are anticipating being completed with the project in December of 25 or January of 26, so somewhere in that time frame. We're about $17 million short of completion of the project. So we believe that the $12 million advance from the city plus additional funding from agreements that are in place will get us to the $17 million that we can complete the project. So is there another number? We're deferential to your decision, but we fully anticipate the need of the $12 million.
Thank you for that. I guess it would be good to have a number, but I understand that you're not having one because probably you didn't anticipate that question. All right, I'm going to relinquish the floor now, Chair. I'm going to think about some things. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Boylan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of comments. First of all, Mr. Peterson, you just mentioned, obviously, there are going to be interests associated by advancing this money now. Have you quantified what that number looks like?
Through the chair to Councilmember Boylan, a rule of thumb that we use as it relates to debt issuances is about for every $10 million of debt the city issues, it costs about $800,000 in principal and interest payments on an annual basis. So for this $12 million, I would call it $850. I mean, it's close to that.
Sure. So I think there's an appreciation to understand we've got an additional cost associated. It's not just the $12 million that we're advancing, it's $850,000 or whatever you said it was on top of that. My concern, and I share what Councilmember Salem said, and I want to refer to what Councilmember Miller said before. It's a precedent that we're setting here that I don't know that we want to see continued. And I have a difficulty with that. Mr. Hagan, thank you for being here, and through the chair to Mr. Hagan. You mentioned the escalating cost of this project. The number is fairly significant. Did I hear you say $71 million?
Yes, sir.
And what was the original projection, 48?
We were at 46.
46.
Yeah, and then it jumped up to 46 and a half. We signed the construction documents in November of 2023, and by November of 2024, it had gotten up to 70.5 million.
Any prospect of value engineering the project to bring it down to a reasonable number? I'm a little. Sometimes you just got to say, we want to do this, but we're looking at a number that's nearly double of what was anticipated initially, and we're looking for the city, in effect, to front some of that.
Yeah, I don't have. That was a decision made by the board that Councilman Amaro is the liaison for. So I don't have any kind of feedback on that.
Well, the only thing I would offer, and maybe we need to take a look at this in terms of the match situation, if possibly, as you said, this is going to increase foot traffic to the zoo, correct?
Correct.
Well, maybe some assurance, and Mr. Peterson, think about this a little bit, of some kind of surcharge. If, in fact, the zoo is not able to raise philanthropically the dollars necessary to match this, that there is a commitment on the part of the zoo to use a portion of its gate, or an additional portion of its gate, or increasing the gate to accommodate the fact that this $12 million plus whatever interest we're going to be accruing over the course of time is not addressed as part of the process. So we have some assurance that the match, per Councilman Salem's point, is assured. Just a thought.
Council President White, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just wanted to add there again, I've already said, I respect the council auditor's position. I respect Dr. Salem's thoughts. But sometimes you just got to have faith, and I'm sure everybody on this dais knows that the zoo opened on May 12th, 1914. So they've been here a long time, don't think they're going anywhere, and I think this is something they don't have to do, and I think if we kick the can down the road much further, the 71 might go to whatever. So appreciate your support, but if you cannot, I certainly understand. Thank you.
Councilmember Amaro, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. White, for your comments. A quick question through the chair to Mr. Hagan. Do you have a percentage as to how far the project is?
I don't have a percentage of how far the project is, but like I said, we anticipate being done with the project as early as December of this year.
This fall, first quarter next year at the latest.
Correct, of January of next year.
Through the chair to Mr. Hagan, if this project should stall for the lack of support, what are the consequences?
Well, we'll probably have to pull the contractor off the job, which and we're possibly end up in some litigation issues because we did sign the construction documents and everything. If we did pull the contractor off the job and put him back on, obviously that would escalate the cost of the project significantly as well. So that's what we're really trying to avoid in this whole situation.
And through the chair, and aesthetically, you would have a half-baked, ugly-looking structure for folks coming to the Jacksonville Zoo. And again, through the chair, I get it. We often speak of precedent setting, and in my 2.5 years, I've seen us broke precedent on a number of things whenever it was expedient. And, I rise to support this because of my engagement as a liaison. And I've seen the commitment and the passion and the conviction that the board of directors has made to make this city asset, this facility, truly a very fine facility through the Southeast. It's unfortunate that the rising construction costs has put them in this position where they're coming to mom and dad and say, hey, I know you got my inheritance, but I need an advancement on my inheritance. So it's, and that's the position they're in. They're not reneging or giving up their responsibility of raising the funds to match it. I am extremely confident in the few years I've been with them to know that this board is committed and convicted to doing its role. And so again, I urge your support in this matter, and I got to go back to the basics. We own the thing. It's ours. Let's take care of it.
All right. Councilmember Salem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. City-owned asset. Could not agree with you more. We should support it. Couldn't agree with you more. We had a plan, and the plan's being adjusted. And no one from the zoo is here. I mean, I think the zoo should be here. I'd like to have some kind of handout that shows me what the construction costs are and where they are and why they need it to go in here. I have not had a meeting with the zoo. No one's called me from the zoo, to my knowledge, and I hope I'm saying to my knowledge. As I said, I got a phone call at 8:15 this morning from Mr. Hagan, so maybe some of this stuff can be resolved between finance tomorrow. I hope the zoo will be here or the council meeting next Tuesday, but we went through this to some extent with Bosch, and we made Bosch, get the money, get the $40 million. Y'all remember I was pretty hard on them in terms of getting that money raised before we jumped in. And I just think I'm just a little concerned that we're getting off this schedule with the information that we have today. That's all I'm saying. So I'm a no today. Thank you.
All right. And before we go to the other council members in the queue for the second time, I'll just kind of echo a little bit of what Councilmember Salem said, and that is, I love the zoo. My kids love the zoo. It's a necessary city asset. I mean, that's just without a doubt. But I do kind of harken back to how Mosh handled this, and it was brought forth, it was justified, it was explained, and it got me a little bit more comfortable with the understanding of why such a major change in the plan. This isn't like we need a slight shift here. I mean, this is a pretty big adjustment that I think the city can't afford, but I think there's just a lot of questions still. Mr. Hagan, when did you say y'all noticed this cost went from like 40 to 70?
Yeah, so in February of 2024 is what I have, where we anticipated $70.5 million.
And what was it before?
It was at 46.5. That was October of 2023.
Okay, so y'all had from February 24 to basically February 25 to figure out how to bridge that gap. So what was the plan to bridge that gap?
We were trying to do everything we could to raise private dollars to get there.
And how much additional private dollars did y'all raise because of the gap?
Well, I don't know what we raised between the February of 24 to today, but I know we're a little over $8 million in gift agreements.
Yeah, so you see that's where I'm kind of snagged is anytime any organization, whether it's the zoo and then there's been other organizations that I won't name that kind of say, hey, it's tough, it's tight, yada yada, and there just has to be a more understanding. So they had over a year to figure out how to bridge, $24 million gap, and I don't have an answer today of, hey, this is what we did. We had additional fundraisers. We had this, that, and the other, and I I don't know. I'm not saying I won't get there, in a comfort level, because I think we still need to meet on this. The zoo still needs to meet with a few folks on this. So those are my initial thoughts, and those are kind of some of my questions that I hope to get answered before we vote on it in council next week. So, Councilmember Peluso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Hagan, I'm pretty sure you're hearing a similar tone right now. I hopefully they do show up tomorrow for finance. I am going to support it. I support the council president for bringing this to our attention. I support the zoo very much, especially because of the fact that, yes, the city of Jacksonville does own it. They have been around since 1914, and they've been a pretty phenomenal partner with us. I think the main difference between this and Mosh is doing a brand new construction, right? So there was a little bit more of a giant capital campaign process, and I do applaud former council president Salem for making sure that they, came to us with their $40 million and they were able to do so. But, we've got a different relationship with the zoo. They've been there forever. and so, we don't want them to have a haphazard project get finished up. So I'll support it today, but people need to show up tomorrow. People need to call these colleagues, and, that's where I am.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Peluso. Councilmember Amaro, you're recognized for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just very quickly, I agree with what Mr. Salem said, that someone from the zoo needs to be here as well. So I don't have any problem with that. I think there is, however, an apples and oranges comparison with Mosh. This work had already begun. The commitment was made, the funds were being raised, and then the costs got out of control. And so we have to look at it in that context. Not the context that you raise the money before you get going and then you come to us for help. I believe this is a worthwhile investment of this city, and I would urge us to move forward. And if we have concerns about them fulfilling their commitment, find verbiage to underscore that somewhere. But in my humble opinion, I have great confidence they'll do what they need to do. Thank you.
All right. And Councilmember Miller, you're recognized.
Real quick one, through the chair. I'm going to support this today, but I know it's going to finance, and my ask would be that somehow, whatever the appropriate way, to the auditors and anyone else in finance, that we actually get a written commitment, whatever the appropriate way is for that. I think that would help alleviate some of the concerns that have been expressed by some of the members here. But for today, I will be supporting it, go to finance, and I hope we get everything worked out there where we know not, we've been given a pledge, but we know they're going to commit to that matching. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. And Ms. Clark-Murray? Yep. And then I guess we'll go ahead and open the ballot after Ms. Clark-Murray.
Thank you, Chair. I first want to recognize Mr. Peterson and let him do. I'm going to ask, through the chair to Mr. Peterson, I'm going to ask the question to kind of not necessarily echo, but along the same lines of an agreement, because Councilmember Miller mentioned about an agreement. So I'm assuming that there is already something in writing.
Through the chair to Councilmember Clark-Murray. So yes, there is. The agreement that is before you that is attached to this piece of legislation has a sentence as it relates to the zoo's matching dollars, and I'll just read it word for word. It says, the society shall provide evidence of the society's matching dollars spent against the advance amount, so this $12 million, on a quarterly basis until the full match amount has been met. So it's not that they're not agreeing to raise those dollars and to spend the matching $12 million. There's just no teeth in the contract if they fall short of that. Whereas under the reimbursement method, if they fall short of spending $24 million, we don't pay them the $12 million. We'd only pay them half of whatever they spent. So there is language in there that they've committed to. I don't want to gloss over that, but there's no teeth, if you will, to actually enforce that they raise a matching $12 million.
All right, thank you for that. Through the chair to Mr. Stevens. So I'm going to be, to my astonishment as well, I'm going to be a no today. I'm going to watch finance tomorrow, and maybe during finance there'll be a representative from the zoo that can expound on the need and give us a little more information, because I'm just uncomfortable with wanting everything up front as opposed to the original agreement. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
All righty. So with that, we can go ahead and open the ballot and record your votes.
Six yeas, 2 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2025-362. Moving on. Okay, so everything else, this we have one other emergency item in the agenda. Everything else is on second reading. Now, item number 40, we're going to take up the emergency first, 2025-395. All right, we have a motion and a second on the emergency. Do you have a comment on the emergency? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For those of you who were listening to the special committee on downtown, I'm supportive of a lot of the stuff in this bill. There's some things that I want to change, and I'm eager to hear what the amendment will look like. But the criteria for an emergency has not been met when it comes to this bill. It just has not. Councilmember Carlucci, the senior, made that comment, and I frankly I agree with it. Like, there's no reason why this shouldn't go through the normal cycle process. I don't know why we're kind of rushing for something that we've been hanging out on for a while, right? I mean, the commentary was, well, we have this special committee, a special committee that kind of only a handful of us have gone to, and also, oh, this special committee, needs to work quickly because we got a new CEO coming in. Well, okay. I mean, I just don't see that as proper rationale. I think we're fine having this go through a normal cycle process. I know I have some more digesting to do when it comes to kind of any major DIA reforms. Again, happy with a lot of these things, but this does not meet the criteria of an emergency. We should be talking about this in the next committee cycle. Thank you. Vote down the emergency.
Okay. Ms. Clark-Murray, you're on the emergency. Go ahead.
Yes, through the chair, to Mr. Fopoulos, what is the nature of the emergency?
Through the chair to Councilmember Clark-Murray, the nature of the emergency is to have these proposed changes in order before the end of the council year.
All right.
Hold on. Thank you for that. I'm sorry. Through the chair. And, okay, so at the end of the council year, we're changing presidents. That's it, just because it's going to be the end of the council year. There isn't like a time of the essence type of legal rationale as to why.
Well, I think I'll go ahead and answer that as a sponsor of the bill. So the nature of the emergency was due to the fact of some of the language in the bill was for confirmation of the CEO and firing of the CEO. So we needed to have that in place before the CEO was hired so that we could confirm him in time. And that was the nature of the emergency, to have it done. But I'm going to be making an amendment later today to remove that wording. So I think it's going to be a moot point regardless.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. So can we just go ahead and get through the emergency, or do you have a question on the emergency as well? Let's just go ahead and vote on the emergency. I think this is getting belabored. All in favor of the emergency signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? Great. 3-3. Okay. All in favor of the emergency signify by raising your hand. All opposed? 3-3. The emergency fails. All right. Now, if I can pass the gavel to my vice chair to offer my amendment, is that
Mr. Chair,
proper?
with the emergency having failed, it is not ripe for action at this meeting. It will be marked for action at the next committee meeting, because the emergency has failed.
So we need. I would like to call and ask for a reconsideration of that, because we need to make I believe we need to make the amendment to remove the CEO wording, because they're in the middle of a search, and there has been a lot of feedback on that. So I think in order to give comfort to a lot of the folks that are dealing with that right now, that amendment needs to be made. I mean, that's just my opinion. But if y'all don't want to reconsider. No, one of the opposing ones have to, or one of the other three. We've got Councilmember White here.
One of the One of the council members who voted no on the emergency would have to move the reconsideration. Anyone can second it.
Okay. Oh, sure. Go ahead. Ask your question.
So through the chair to Mr. Fopoulos. Okay, so the motion is to make this an emergency. The emergency was voted down. So there's no action that can be taken on this bill. If the emergency is voted, okay, no. I'm sorry, I'm trying to, this is on the fly. So I understand that, Mr. Fopoulos, so to the chair.
Mm-hmm.
The motion and please, Mr. Fopoulos, let me know if I am out of order with this. So you want to amend the bill to remove
The confirmation and firing of the CEO.
Mr. Chair, I've gone back and looked at the rules.
Okay.
The rules provide that it is always in order that you can make an amendment on second reading, which is what this bill reverts to with the failure of the emergency. So we don't do it very often because it kind of jumps out of the normal process. So if you wanted to offer your amendment, you could. Just know that it would just be to do the amendment, and it would go up to council as essentially an amend and re-refer. But
Okay.
you could offer
No.
the amendment, or you all can do a reconsideration, take up the emergency, and
Understood.
pass the emergency if you wanted to just have it finished and move through the process as of council next Tuesday.
I'd prefer to keep it as an emergency just so we can, put it in concrete to solidify that, but I'll leave it up to the 3 members who voted it down. But did you have a question? Oh, Councilmember Boylan, did you have a question on something? We're kind of going off a little just to make sure
We're
we're
not
all
actually.
good.
I to your point, for me to have to offer a reconsideration, I need to understand the amendment that you're looking to offer, so I have a better understanding as to the rationale for it. I'm not fully versed on, and then what does the bill retain beyond that?
Oh, okay. So the amendment that I would be offering if the emergency is reconsidered and passed, or if it's not. So the bill in and of itself gives the DIA quite a bit more autonomy with the dollar amount that they are able to approve. And I'd have to look at all the rest of the bullet points. But the most contentious item is the authority given to the council to confirm and remove the new CEO. So my amendment that would be offered will be to remove and strike the language for council to confirm or remove the CEO. And then the rest of it will remain. And if you want an explanation on the remainder, then I would have to give full detail from Mr. Peterson.
So thank you. That's very helpful, and I do appreciate that. So my understanding what the bill in essence does after the fact, if we take out that authority, if you will, as you said, raises the limit as to what they can approve. And secondly, it requires a 5-year CIP. Is that on an annual basis?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So really, and that makes it, to your point, probably perhaps a better serviced bill. And Ms. Boyer's here. If you want to come on up, I don't need for you to speak to, I think I know your opinion on whether or not the authority should be with the council, but if that is stricken from there, what is your feelings about the other advantages this bill brings forward?
Thank you. Through the chair to Councilmember Boylan. DIA has no objection to the other provisions in the bill other than the language regarding the CEO, and we would appreciate the amendment that Councilmember Carlucci is suggesting, whether it is as an emergency, pass the amendment, then defer, or whether it is just an amendment that he can make on second reading. Either way, we would very much appreciate that amendment being made since we are doing interviews for the candidates next Monday.
And to that point, I'm going to go ahead and offer the reconsideration because I think it is important for us as they're going through the process of interviewing to have a fair understanding by the candidates as to what role they're going to have to play or responsibility they're going to have that this bill introduces. Right. So I would go ahead and move to reconsider.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. So we have a motion to reconsider. Do we vote on that? Okay, all in favor of the Oh, you're on the queue for the reconsideration. Yes, Councilmember Peluso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, guys, this is more about the process in which we do the work of the City Council. This does not meet the criteria of an emergency. Right now, we can tell all those applicants, hey, we've got a bill moving through. It's going through the normal process. That's perfectly fine. Like, that is something that we can tell these applicants. We can also tell them what the amendments look like. That is perfectly fine. They can be told of these developments as they go through the process. And if they can't handle, I mean, I don't know a single future CEO of DIA that's going to ask, well, I don't know, is an emergency in the City Council right now? No one's going to ask those questions. Let's be very clear about what's been happening when it comes to this bill and when it came to the special committee. One of our colleagues was heavily disrespected, and it's either we stand up for the processes that we've installed in our council rules and in the processes in which we make sure a bill is ripe for being an emergency or is not. So I don't believe that this meets that criteria. Obviously, I want to see a lot of these changes. Very happy about the amendment. This is not an emergency. Do not vote for the reconsideration.
Okay, all in favor of the reconsideration of the emergency, signify by raising your hand. All right, the reconsideration passes. So now we will take another vote on the emergency. Is that correct, Ms. Stavopoulos? Okay, so all in favor of the emergency. Oh, motion and second on the emergency. All in favor of the emergency signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The emergency passes. Now, we're in a good posture. We can. All right, let's move the auditor's amendment. All right, motion and second on the auditor's amendment. Mr. Peterson, do you want to explain the auditor's amendment?
Yes, sir. Through the chair to the committee, a number of the changes not related to the CEO are also reflected in the city's public investment policy as well as the bid plan of the DIA. And so we would recommend including amendment to the public investment policy to reflect those changes and then authorize DIA to make those changes to the bid plan as they are also in the process of updating that as well. And then there are various scriveners.
All right. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. We have so we didn't get a second on that, so I'm going to offer mine. I'm going to pass the gavel to Councilmember Miller. We don't really have to change seats, but if you want to recognize me in the queue.
Recognize Chair Carlucci for a further amendment.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Yeah, so the amendment I'd like to offer today is to strike the language for confirmation and removal of the CEO. And I believe that language is pretty simple to get amended. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, to the chair and through the chair to the vice chair to the committee. So what we would be doing is eliminating the changes to section 55.106 and 55.108, which are the two sections that are related to adding language to the code pertaining to the appointment, confirmation, removal of the CEO.
Okay.
Seeing Councilman Peluso next in the queue.
Did I get a second?
A second.
All right.
Yes, sorry for getting ahead of us. Councilman Peluso, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Through the Vice Chair to the Chair. So I guess I want to make sure. So right now, DIA board wants to select this individual. What happens next? Does it come to us for confirmation, but now we can't remove, but we still want to make sure. Go ahead, through you or Ms. Stavopoulos.
I'll answer. It doesn't come to it. It's just the same process. The board appoints and it stays there. No confirmation, no removal, anything like that.
Understood. Very supportive. Thank you.
We'll next go to Councilman Amaro.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I will support the amendment. I think it's the right posture, the right thing to do. My concern was that if we open that Pandora box with the DIA, does that mean we now go into the lanes of every other independent authority? And so I will support the amendment. I think it's the right thing to do, and therefore I will support it.
Okay. No one else in the queue. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The amendment passes. Yeah, please roll those up if we could. Is that appropriate given what was just said? Okay, yeah, please roll those together.
Open the ballot, record your vote. Oh, whoa, 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 zing, zing. Am I the chair now again? What's happening here? We've got all right, Councilmember Peluso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. We might need to give everyone a good lesson on Robert's rules. All right, so I did want to offer one more amendment. Right now, the criteria is that the Rev Grant process has been changed and altered, and so we reduced the total cost of TIF dollars from $18 million to $10 million. For those of us who were sitting in on the Special Committee on Downtown, I suggested that we actually move that up to about $15 million, and that's going to be my amendment offer. So Rev Grant process is different now. It's on its own, but now the amount of hard cash incentives that could be provided just from TIF dollars, not from the general fund, would now go from $10 million in the current bill to $15 million. That is my amendment.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we're going to go ahead to discussion. There's really no one in the queue. For me, I'm still more comfortable with 10 for right now, Councilmember Peluso, but I think it's a well-intended amendment and everything. I just feel like going through the whole committee process, knowing the other sponsor on this, Councilmember Carrico, Council Vice President Carrico, has worked very hard with a lot of different people, including DIA, to kind of get that number. He might be, willing to hear out on that. But for me, I'm going to stick with the initial $10 million for now, and see how it goes through the rest of the process. So, with that, we'll go to Councilmember Clark Murray.
All right, thank you, Chair. Ms. Boyer, if you would come forward. So you heard the amendment, 10 million or 15. What is the difference that you see? What's your opinion in regards to those numbers?
Through the chair to Member Clark Murray, we really have no objection either way. The 15 gives the board more discretion to award incentives from their own resources that have been budgeted by council without coming back through a separate council legislative process. And as Councilmember Peluso mentioned, if it required general fund dollars, that's a whole separate thing anyway. Then it has to come back through the council legislative process. So this is simply providing, if you have given us budgetary authority for a particular use of funds, say loans, and we had that resource available and we wanted to award it to a particular project, the board could do that without coming back and asking council again to approve the agreement. That's what the threshold relates to. So either way.
Right. Thank you for that. So committee members, you heard the explanation. So I guess the difference is, do we want additional work or not? And the higher amount gives DIA more discretion or more freedom to make decisions without additional legislation and additional time. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
All right, Councilmember Peluso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. And to just kind of second on my logic, we still have a lot of historical properties. For some cases, the Rev Grant is going to be great. Cash incentives are going to be great. They just may need a little bit more. We've got the JEA building that's up there now in our inventory. We've got a lot of big projects. Birch Scotts might be one that gets a little beyond the 10. It was just a matter of, again, for those that have, they've got TIF dollars, right? It's a CRA fund that they have. I've got no problem allowing them to use monies that we and prior councils have given them the budgetary authority to have. And so I understand maybe there should be some kind of cap, so I said 15, just to make sure that we can get some of these high interest projects, moving forward. So that's all. I'm not going to, cry too hard if it stays at 10. I understand it, but I think 15 makes a little more sense.
All right, Councilmember Morrow, you're recognized. You're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to support 10. I like his practicality, but 10 doesn't give me any heartburns. The language that I was concerned about has been removed, and therefore I'm prepared to move forward with this bill.
Councilmember Boylan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My inclination to support the 15, one of the concerns we've had time and time again is the fact that we get bogged down in the process. By taking it down to 10, requires another 4 to 6 weeks before the council finally addresses it. And I think that puts a burden on the DIA. If we trust them, we trust them. We put them in those positions. We understand the role they play. Let's give them the capacity to move effectively and impactfully. Thank you.
Councilmember Miller, you're recognized.
What Council Member Amaro said through the chair.
All right, all in favor of the Peluso amendment, signify by raising your hand. All in support of the Peluso amendment. All right, we have a 3-4. We have a 3 in favor of. All right, any opposed? Raise your hand. And we have 3 opposed, so the amendment fails. The amendment fails. All right. That's it. So we will open the ballot now, and we have a motion on the emergencies, twice amended, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we're good. Once amended. Well, yeah, we're rolled up. All right, open the ballot, record your votes.
Six yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2025-395 as emergency as amended. All right. Now, that concludes our meeting. Committee members, don't go too far. I do need a picture, and I'll tell you about it why later. Salem's not here, but he's never here. Okay? He always leaves at 11:45, Salem. It's fine. He can handle it. He's got thick skin. All right, this meeting is adjourned.